Hello and welcome to the Everyone Has a Story podcast. Today we're going to talk about your voice, and not just so much, how it sounds, anything like that, but really what voice are we using when we talk for ourselves? What voice are we using when we're talking to others? And one of my favorite all-time stories reference this. There was a running back. He was a third string running back for the professional football team. And this team was on the brink of making the playoffs. And unfortunately, their number one running back was on the sidelines injured. So it's now to running back number 2 and running back number 3. Running back number 3, his name was Al Hurd. And he was on a team that was always in the playoffs. And right now they're on the brink of either being in the playoffs or not being in the playoffs. So it was a very, very important game. Well, sure enough, running back number 2 gets injured. So now Al has to come in and be the hero of the game. And it seemed like every time the team needed 2 yards, he would give them 3. So he was always getting them exactly what they wanted. They kept moving the ball, they scored, and they eventually won the game. And at the end of the game, you know how on the sidelines they bring the guy, the hero of the game, and they bring it over and they do a sideline interview. Well, you could tell Al had not had very much practice talking to the camera after the game because he was never really in the game because he was a third string running back. He finally gets his chance. So he's being interviewed, and the person on the sideline interviewing Al said, "Al, it seemed like every time you needed 2 yards, you gave him 3." He goes, "Yeah, every time they needed 2 yards, I gave him 3. Yeah, every time they needed 4 yards, I gave him 3. And about that time, the announcer says, "Well, you could just see you thinking, well, wait a minute, Al, if you needed 4, why'd you only give him 3? But anyway, the poor guy was just so excited. He just couldn't stop talking. And sometimes you just need to maybe understand your voice a little bit better than what poor Al did. But he finally got to be on the sidelines. He just happened to not say it exactly how he wanted to. Now, how many of in our life, obviously, we're not talking professional football. We're not talking, major TV audiences, but a lot of times we have messages that we have to convey. And sometimes those messages are taken exactly how we wanted them. And sometimes they're taken completely opposite. And the speaker walks away going, "What the heck just happened? I thought I had my whole team bought in, and now they're walking away shaking their heads. So really what happened?" But then also think about all those employees right now and leaders who are really having troubles because of COVID in the new business environment, that they are so afraid to just share their voice, share what they really are thinking, because their environment, work environment, professional environment, just doesn't allow them to really enable a person to really share their voice and their thoughts. Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. And I have to tell you, you guys are going to love my guest. She's very easy to just fall in love with. She's a fun person. So thank you again for being my guest today. So let's get to really what you do and how you do it. Mm-hmm. So just for everybody out there, what is your definition of voice?
So for me, voice, as a person who really deeply go into learning about the whole phenomena of voice, I think that the voice is something that each person will develop through entire life. So voice is how we resonate. It's how we connect with the outside reality. It's how truthful we are to ourselves. I know that every single person have internal dialogue. I know that every single person have certain relationship with their voice. And sometimes we don't really pay attention to what is the truth we speaking inside of us. Many times we don't even pay attention where what we do in our patterns come from. So for me, the voice and finding the voice, it's something that comes as authenticity. It's something that how you present yourself to society. It's your reasons of why you wake up every single day in the morning and how you and what you do. Because everything that you want in life, it gets to you by you communicating with the world. It doesn't matter if you go to the store or if you talk to your spouse or whatever, and with whoever you communicate, you use your voice. So how much of you aware of what you do and how you do it? That's already a question, that the next question to ask when we go to the topic of how much you aware of your true voice.
So why is that important today, especially today versus, let's say, 2 years ago, before COVID and before what the world is experiencing, the great resignation and great, divide between political parties and everything? Why is that really, really important today?
I think many people went through a very big moment of scarcity. They went through a very hard, depressed moment of their life. And many people, I think, lost the connection with themselves. Because when you are being challenged, you either grow or you reverse. So if you really went back and you were under your fears, you don't really have a good connection with yourself anymore. And to speak the truth and find that authenticity in you is something that I truly believe absolutely every single person needs to find. Because if you're not truly aligned with who you are and your true authenticity, what is even the point to continue? What is your why? Why you do everything that you do? So finding right now in the society where we are right now, the real connection and communication through the voice, it's really something that I personally look for and I personally influence others to do.
Now, when you talked about how you felt you lost your voice, I think a lot of us, if we're honest with ourselves, we can relate to everything you just said. But really, with you and your clients, what does really finding your voice really mean?
Mm-hmm. So for me, I found this pattern that I use with my clients usually. So I use 3 pillars that I identify the voice with. First, it's physical. Second, it's mental. And third, it's emotional. So first, the physical one, it's how do you sound? We are not aware, and I honestly believe that this is something that they need to teach in schools. Finding how you truly resonate and how physically you produce the voice, it's so important because it has so much to do with your body, with your physicality, with your nerve system, with the ability to feel calm, with the ability to present as well. Then the second thing is, as I said, mental. That's when I see a lot of people, when I work with people through the voice, that's where I see a lot of patterns comes on the surface through mental thing. Oh, what people are gonna think of me when I'm gonna say this? Am I saying this correct? Am I sounding correct? So all these limited beliefs and fears start appearing in a person. And then once we clear up those, and went through that stage, then we can talk already about the emotional part of voice. Because imagine this, if we talk, for example, about singing, anyone can sing, right? I mean, not anyone, but anyone can try to sing. Even the robot, we can make a machine to produce very beautiful sound. It's gonna vibrate really beautifully, but is it gonna do anything to other person? Will it somehow influence or bring something to that person? Only a live person who has a connection with that story, with that moment of saying or singing, can really elevate the emotion and bring something to outside world. That's where I call it storytelling, and that's how I teach people to not only perform, but when they speak, to use the intention. If only people would understand the importance of intentional speaking, they would never in their life say a bad word. If they only knew how the vibration resonates through entire body and how it creates the field of energy around you.
So obviously I'm into storytelling because I do it every week for the last 158 weeks. And so I fully understand the importance of storytelling. But for some of those individuals, there's a lot of them out there who who really can't define their story.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of reasons for that, probably past traumas, you name it. So as a coach, how do you get them to fully understand the intention? Because I have found that if I know my intention, it is so much easier to tell a story with the right emotion, with the right feeling and the right energy. But if I don't have that well-defined intention at the forefront, all I am is I'm just puking out words. So how do you help people not just puke out words, but really find that intention?
Yeah, so you connect, to me, the biggest moment is to connect with your why. Because if you have an intention and you know your why you say what you say, why is that you decided to speak, why is that you telling this story, what's the purpose? So I'm a big believer that it's not about what you do, it's about how you do it. Because all of us can say something, but why do we really do that? Why do we want to bring that message to the world? So the higher mission is, the easier is to actually go through everything. It's easier to speak that story, because when you have the connection with the final result where you're going for, when you understand that it's just like the speech or whatever you're talking about is just a small puzzle in that final picture that you're trying to reach, this is when all the nervousness and the rest of it just will go away. Because you know that you're aiming for a bigger mission, because you know that you're just trying to achieve that something that aches your soul to be done. And then once we have that, it's going to be so much easier to work through whatever obstacles out there, for you to start using your voice in just particular way that you always wanted.
Okay. So now let's nail down to the business community. Mm-hmm. Even before this podcast, you and I and Rick, my engineer, we were talking about some bad bosses and how we all probably need to have one really bad boss in our life, because if we learned from it and it taught us something, then it wasn't really that bad of a boss. We actually learned something from it. There are a lot of people out there that are leading teams, that are trying to run an organization, manage an organization, and they're just not adequate communicators because they really don't know their voice. They probably were thrown in the role as manager and they had no really experience of really leading a team, so they don't even know how to lead themselves. So how would you help an individual who now went from a frontline employee to a manager, or from a manager who says, I'm going to start my own business, and now they become the big overall boss? How do you help them find that voice, and really what should that voice sound like?
Mm-hmm. So I like analogies, right? And because I'm a musician and I'm a very creative person, I understand how that feels work. And this is what I've noticed that's been really missing in the business community: the creativity, the moment of real connection and real truth between people. Because many times, and I had that one also boss that, was not a good communicator, was a great person, but was not a good communicator. And I think that many times people, once they get to a better position or a higher position, their ego rises as well. And they think that they have no place for mistake. They think that being a leader now, they have to be tougher and stronger and more professionally looking. But the reality is, the leader who leads other people needs to have other people to trust him, to feel like they are on the same team. So when it comes to the way where I step in, there is a couple of things that I usually do. And number one is fully connect that person, first of all, with the mission of why they're going to lead that team, and why, they whys. What is the purpose of why they want to do that business? between not only them, but also clients. And then the second thing, there's two analogies that I want to talk to. First, it's a body, right? The body, it's the whole system that has to work in synchronicity. Every single organ is there for a reason. If there is no communication between the organs, the body's going to get sick. The same thing happens with the company. So for example, if you as a boss, a brain or a heart of the body, it's not like you're the main one. If something else is not working, you're going to suffer as well. So the clear communication between organs, the clear communication between the whole organization, and you as a leader talk to each person. And that's why I really like team members when they get together for team building, because learning that you might be as vulnerable as your boss, that your boss is also a person, that your boss also have his awareness, his fears, and he was going through there. Leading by example, it's a really huge moment for other people to really trust and speak openly to the leader of the company. And there is many different things that can be done, with the team building. But the most important part, the other analogy actually that I want to bring is law of harmonious organization. So in music, right, if we play something, even if we're talking about orchestra or ensemble, every single person has their own notes that they play. And there is a law of harmonious organization that every single thing in the world, every single cell of our body is responding to that law. The same thing works with organization and any team. Each person have to be in synchronicity and in unison with the person next to them. So creating that healthy environment, creating that feeling of harmony within, it's something that will drive, it's something that will constantly give energy to not only to the people, but also the energy for the outside world of the organization, to how you communicate with your clients, how you communicate with your vendors. It all comes down to really how much we are in tune with ourselves, how much we're in tune with our voice, and how much we can feel other people. And I think this is what we've been missing in the past, years, the real communication and really feeling with each other. Because if you're just doing the robotic things that somebody just taught you, how would you see a mistake coming? And this is really, I see how the world is changing right now, and more businesses, they really understand that caring for each other, it always will give a better outcome at the end.
All right. So you just brought up a good point, and I want to talk about that exactly now from the organization and the voice of the organization and the customers, because a lot of times they don't always match. I've seen some marketing where I want to go and experience that business because the marketing just seems like a lot of fun. I mean, like that organization is just going to be just a kick in the pants to go to and just have a good time. And you walk in and it's like a bunch of zombies there. I mean, they don't reflect the marketing. So how would you help not individuals, but an organization find their voice and get connected to the real customer experience?
I think that if you selling something that you don't believe in, it will last like a fake marriage. It will last a couple of years and then, you're going to lose it. And I think the real connection, first of all, I think bringing people who really passionate about that same area, the same business to work with you, it's the key. And then how you communicate with your audience. So if you give them a solution and you really talk to them in their language, if you really understand why they want that solution, it's going to be so much easier, to build that very lasting relationship with your buyers, with your clients, and make them lifelong customers. Sometimes organizations, unfortunately, they make people depend on the product, right? Creating like very, how to say it, relationship that people depend on them. But if you create a partnership with your clients, that's a different story. That's a win-win situation, because both of you can grow. You can create a better and improved product. Your clients, which means, look, people who want to grow, they will be improving. So really giving them a reality of what's going on, a product that you yourself believe in when you're selling it and when you talk about it. It's just the easiest way, I think, to do it, because it just comes to you very naturally. Because you cannot fake passion. That's one thing.
Yeah. So, but when you start being intentional, sometimes being intentional can come across very non-authentic.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And I know that you and I have had plenty of conversations about, if we're going to be intentional, one of the main components of being intentional is being present in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean by that?
When I teach voice, sometimes I've noticed one thing. People don't pay attention to the last notes. And I think it always happens when we even speak. That's where we get a lot of words. They are like, like, I was like, all this is emptiness, because we don't really pay attention what and how we say. So being in the present, I've noticed when you in the process, when you in the moment of doing something, and you can put your all your mind and all your intention, your focus in here and now, you've noticed how much energy it creates. So when, for example, when I teach voice and I see people start flowing away somewhere in their mind and they don't pay attention to the last notes, because it's kind of not important, the most importantly, that I put that all my effort in the first two notes and the ending is kind of like fading away. No, it's still out there. You're still presenting it. It cannot fade away. It also needs to have the same intention and importance as the first two notes. So once you practice that, you realize, wow, everything that I do is important. It doesn't matter how big or small the task is. Everything that you do, it's still you. It's still every single moment, minute, hour, second of your time. So if you start intentionally look into those little things and understand that that might not be ever happened to me, it's already passed and I didn't even notice that last 5 minutes. Where did I lose it? So being in the moment here and now, for me, also has to be related with the process. As I go through my practice, I see one really big problem with people. Everyone wants a result. Everyone is so result oriented. They just want that final, this is it. Yeah, it's great to have your why. It's great to have a bigger picture. But the problem is that the result is just a mark that's gonna go like this. The process, it's something that we should be concentrating on. And once we really emerged fully in the process, the result occurs as a natural condition of being in the process and building up. So I was there myself so many times when I want a result, I kind of almost even achieve it, but then I drop because I don't have a foundation, because that result was like, just the mirage that I'm like trying to hype and grasp onto, but it's just gonna occur to you naturally if you learn how to be in the process. And that's how many people fail, because even with singing, sometimes I have people who I start teaching when they just do it for a self-presentation, for self-confidence. And that's the part of my program when I teach people how to publicly speak. I make them sing as well. And they say, wow, I'm not gonna be a Whitney Houston tomorrow. Yes. Yes, and me too. I still, after 20 years, I'm still learning, because if you don't go into the process, if you don't establish the foundation, there was a great moment yesterday in my class. I take Taekwondo classes for different purposes. And there was a great moment that my teacher said yesterday. He said, if Mike Tyson would be in front of you right now, do you know what he would be practicing? He would practice his basic. He would practice his foundation, something that he learned, 40 years ago. He still will be start his training with that. So when people start something, they trying to get those results. They're trying to already score and show, look at me, I achieved it, I've done it, I'm good. But if you take away all the judgment and all comparison that rushing us to be like those perfectionists, that really it comes down to a very simple foundation that we come back and we practice. It doesn't matter what it is, music or sport, you go back to the basic. You go back and you perfect that. Because once you know how to do that, then you can improvise and put whatever creativity you want into the picture.
That's such a great point, because being an ex-tennis professional, I know the importance of practicing. Mm-hmm. Why don't individuals today in organizations and team leaders, why don't they put more discipline into the practice? Because the more you practice, the more confidence you're going to get. And if people are lacking confidence, is it because they're lacking taking the time to practice?
That's actually really, really good point. That's really good point. Yes, I think there is a combination. I think one is, yes, lack of practice. And the reality right now shows us that like overnight, you can become very famous. Just create a TikTok, it's going to be 1 million views and that's it. No, it's not. No, it's not, because you have to learn how to sustain. I just heard a really great phrase of one of my colleague. She said, if you go too fast, if you try to grasp too much, you're going to lose control. And this is something that we need to learn. And the other thing, I think, combination is, besides the practice, if you have a good source and good hand right next to you, a person, who can lead you and help you to grow very with their heart, openly with their heart, then you definitely gonna see how the success gonna come to you. But again, I don't believe that success really exists. Success is just your progress. It's not like once you achieve something and that's it. No, it's like you're not able to brush your teeth once in your lifetime. You have to do it every single day. The same thing with success. It's not like you're gonna reach something and that's it. No, you still will need to wake up and continue to do things to sustain them. And this is, I think, in the world where a lot of consumerism right now happening, people really probably losing their confidence because they think everything comes really easy.
And if we haven't had our voice for the last 50 years, it's not going to just come tomorrow. So, Veronica, I can't thank you again for being my guest speaker today. You've been absolutely wonderful. Why don't you leave us with a little bit of more final inspiration on why we should really think about finding our voice?
Mm-hmm. There is a quote that I really like. Don't be echo, be the voice. So if you're really truly looking for new ways in your life to be very honest, to be very authentic with whatever you do, not to be a copy, not to be the voices outside that made you to do something that you never wanted, but you kind of decided just to go with that. Ask yourself this question. What would you do? A lot of people saying, a lot of coaches do this practice. What would you do if you had all the money in the world? Yes, I also can relate to that, but I think it's missing something. I think it's not deep enough because, money is great, but my question that I want people to really ask and go deeper with that, ask yourself, what would you do if there were no judgment or no other opinion from outside? And that's something that will take you really deeply to that new journey to realize, oh my God, I actually never really, used my voice in the way how I wanted. I never spoke about my feelings and how I feel to my spouse or to my kids, or I never really came to my boss or my employees and said to them how much I appreciate them, or that I don't really like my position. I would want to be in this company, but I would want to do something different. Or I really feel like I need a raise for what I do because I really think I do a really great job. So if there were no judgment and nobody would tell you anything of what and how you are going to be, what would it be? To start with that, I think it's a great point of taking the next level of who you are and finding that authenticity within.
That is a great final piece of advice. Thank you. How can my audience reach you if they want to get in contact with you?
Well, they're welcome into my house. I'm very welcome in person. I cook great meals and like to host parties. But of course, we cannot do that right away. We are right now tied to communicating through the Zoom and through meetings. So I host private one-on-one sessions with my clients. I also creating and launching my online program next month in October for power of self-presentation. It's going to be a private group where people are going to be learning how to become the authentic voice for their businesses, for themselves, for whatever they do. I have a website that we can attach as well, and LinkedIn profile where I always communicate with people, and happy to meet new people who either want to collaborate or use any of my services.
Well, people out there, please reach out and get to know Veronica. She's authentic, as you have heard her today. So thank you again, Veronica, and I plan on doing plenty more podcasts with you.
My pleasure, Roger.
My podcast wouldn't be the same if it wasn't for my sponsors and my great supporters. So let me take this opportunity to thank each and every one of them. First of all, I want to thank Rebecca at Custom Bookkeeping and Accounting, delivering trustworthy bookkeeping services since 2003. Dave and Dara at Virtues Matter, making this world a much happier place to be with their Virtues card apps, coaching, and workshops. Stephen at Fuller Accounting, giving business owners depth and insight to their numbers. Eric and his team at Ivy Cat Web Design, the real superheroes of web development and design. Jennifer and Jean at the Seavers Real Estate Team, serving Pierce and Kitsap counties with their home buying and selling needs. Maury at the Maury Method, the world's only brainwave entrainment engineer, helping everyone have more clarity, less stress, and overall better brain health. Priya at Pivot My Profit, helping individuals and businesses have better control of their finances and more money at the end of their day. Melissa at the Soul Vibe Energy High, the queen of the aha moments, helping individuals find those holes in their cups, repair the hole, and gain back their positive energy. And finally, Rick at West Sound Recording. You talk, they do all the rest. Thank you, Rick, for all your efforts with the production and editing of my podcast.